Blog Talk Radio.
Carol the Coach. Sex, love, and relationships. We talk about it here.
Carol the Coach. Compassion with contemporary relevance.
I am a psychotherapist. I can be your personal life coach, and I can help you with your issues. There are no problems too small or too big. You can talk about anything.
Speaker, columnist, radio TV host, and commentator. Carol the Coach brings messages of wellness and empowerment within reach of everyday people every day.
Almost 5 years ago, I lost my soulmate in an accident. He was killed in a plane crash. Life just, for me, has seemed to stop.
There are groups all over the city. I teach one. It is a specific way to start thinking so that you shift how you see the world, which then shifts your energy, and then you feel better and you actually see things differently.
Carol the Coach. Always available, too, at carolthecoach.com.
Now, I've got Russell on the line.
I'm 47 years old. I'm a truck driver. I am married. I have a wife in San Francisco.
Okay.
I haven't been home in 6 months. My thing is, I don't know if I have a sex addiction or what the problem is. Why do I want what I can't have? And as soon as I can have it, I don't want it anymore.
You're right on target when you say, I don't know if I have a sexual addiction. Well, guess what? Yes, you do. And you know what? That's my specialty, Russell. So you're at the right place. Continue.
I meet women online, and I'm in a different part of the country. I travel all 48 states, so I love sex.
I hear self-esteem issues. You never felt good enough, and you didn't feel like you were getting what you should have then, and you're reenacting that now. Do you want to change that about yourself?
You get what you need.
I got an
email from a man who had a lot of questions about things that we really commonly experience them when we're doing disclosures. Most of the time, what happens is that one partner is faithful and the other isn't, and the disclosure is to figure out what has happened. But in the email that I got from David, he had actually said that there was deception on both ends, as well as other types of deception and financial and those kinds of things. And so he was asking me so many questions, and I said to him, David, why don't you just come on the show and talk a little bit about what your situation is, and we can talk together, and I'm sure you'll be helping other people. So I want to welcome David to the show. David, welcome to Sex Help with Carol the Coach.
Hey, thank you so much, Carol. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Yeah. Now, remind our listening audience, the first time you contacted me, do you remember what your question was?
Yes, I in Help Her Heal and in Help Them Heal, they talk about how to really provide that space and how to have accountability for your behaviors. And I was trying to do that. And the struggle came in after I got out of treatment and after a year and a half of really trying to show up every day and avoid divorce. My wife had filed for divorce while I was in inpatient rehab. I found out piecemeal bits and pieces that she had had 2 extramarital affairs prior to discovery, prior to finding out about my infidelity. She had gone outside the marriage on 2 separate occasions. And then more got discovered as well, that even as I was admitted to treatment, within the first 30 days of me being in treatment, there was a sexual relationship, and then, another one was like at 60 days or something like that. And then, this all kept coming out, and it became really challenging to hold that space and be an empathetic, a compassionate partner, take accountability when, she had a year and a half to deal with, me coming out all at once before I left for treatment. It was just, gaslighting, everything just came to be too much. And I said that I had sexual relationships with all these different women, and just kind of, diarrhea of the mouth and regurgitated this information. That never happened with her. There was never an opportunity to meet me and share that, hey, I've done these things too, or anything like that. And now I do want to work on our marriage, and I do want to be empathetic. But, man, when she starts getting on me about things and says certain things, it's really triggering to me as well. Well, how could you do this? How could these other women do this? And I just, sometimes the anger inside of me and the hurt, the regressive kid
and the resentment
wants to say, yeah, well, don't you know how they could do this? I think you have a good idea of how this could happen, considering that you also made these kind of mistakes, So, and it's really frustrating when, my wife is not working a program, and she's been resistant to that. And when I do bring something up, or when I brought something up in a very by the book way, it got flipped on me. I had questions.
Yeah.
I said, the pictures and things that I saw on your phone contradict the story that you're telling me right now, And I asked her about that. She feels pressure. She feels shame. And then immediately she goes into, well, I need other information about you. And she feels vulnerable answering questions to me and wants to know all of this information and turns it back on me. Now I'm backpedaling, and I was like, wait up, I'm the hurt one here. How am I now?
Yeah, no, I get it. And, what you're talking about, and you've probably heard of this term, is DARBO. And that is when somebody turns the situation around, denies that they have a problem, and they attack you, reverse the roles. Now they're the offender, and you're the offender, and they're the victim, and you can't ever get good communication and accountability from that person. And so what I hear you saying, let me see if I got this picture straight. And, of course, we would never use her name on air, ever, ever. But your wife, now ex-wife?
No, we were able to, we're trying to make it work right now. And things are going, progress is slow, but progress is being seen, daily reprieve from my side, and God's grace is coming down. But I just want to be able to do better, and things are going in the right direction. I need to know how to handle this because it's not, Yeah.
Okay, so if I understand you, your wife, who actually left you while you were in treatment and had previous affairs and some sort of infidelity prior to you going into treatment, is not holding herself accountable. Here you want to make it work, and it sounds like all you really need to do is have her be accountable so that honesty can come back and begin to build that pure intimacy, right?
Right.
And you look, because I'm looking at David on Zoom as well as talking to him, you look very, very hurt.
I am. I'm extremely hurt.
I can see
this
that,
is the most
and that would be
it gives me insight into the pain and the hurt and the devastation that I've caused. In some ways, this hurt is a blessing, and I want to use it for good. But man, it's really hard when it gets flipped, and it just.
Of course it is. You know what, David? Here's what. So you have been in treatment. You've gone to some other facility and you've gotten intensive treatment, and then you've come back. Obviously, you read Help Her Heal, and you're reading or have finished Help Them Heal, and the pathway starts with honesty, and that's the missing link in your relationship, and I suspect that's what's tripping both of you up. It's tripping her up, I believe, because she doesn't feel like she can be honest enough. I think she fears probably your wrath, and I'm not saying you're overly angry, but she knows how she made you feel about your stuff, and she's not probably a sex addict, but infidelity is infidelity. And she's definitely had several encounters, correct?
Right.
So are you working with an IRCM specialist, somebody who practices those early recovery couple empathy skills so they can help her develop those like you have?
She was resistant to therapy before I left for Pine Grove. I tried to get her in contact with the CSAT, and she did start working with this woman. And I think that there was a point where she told her, look, if you keep on talking about saving the relationship or doing any of this healing stuff, I'm not coming back. So I think that the therapist pivoted and had to in order to be able to maintain the communication. And she was told that if she had questions, that I was supposed to give her answers in the moment. There was no waiting for a therapeutic disclosure. It's been staggered disclosure the whole time, and that I recognize the hurt of staggered disclosure. It sucks, man, and it really sucks when the things that I've asked about, the things that she's told me about certain relationships have turned out to not be as they were stated, and that's hard to build that trust. You mentioned on the intro that there's been other deterioration and eroding of trust through spending and financial irresponsibility, and $50,000 worth of credit card debt that has been accumulated over the last year and a half while I was in treatment and then I came out. And in addition to all of these attorney's charges and divorce things, and I know that in that trauma, in that PTSD state, she was in survival mode, and they were not well thought out, and I'm compassionate and understanding to that. However, there were things where $4,000 disappeared out of our account, and she said that she didn't know anything, denied knowledge, willfulness in spending this. And then there was a check that came from Hurricane Ida, an insurance check that I entrusted her with, and then she had to ask me to send the child support payment early because she was out, because she had spent that too, So I want to set and learn how to do the boundaries that Townsend and Cloud talk about, and I'm not good with. And, I'm trying to do all of this work, all of this deep, heavy lifting work. And I do love my wife, and I do love being with my kids, and I love the family that I see potential to be in. And I don't, we went to a conference, and I tried to get her to go to some Al-Anon meetings. Maybe that just having the common vocabulary of a program to talk about things would be able to set some framework and groundwork to be able to work within, and it's just not been well received, and I feel like I'm at an impasse.
So I know you don't want to necessarily go this direction, but let me clarify 5 things. One is, are you in impeccable recovery now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you've had how many sexual sobriety clean days?
Masturbation slips excluded, or
masturbation excluded. Isn't that in your inner circle? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was in my inner circle. Over 9 months consecutive. I struggled when I was living in a sober living house, and I struggled with that being. I would go and do everything at the house, and I was able to be with the family, and then I would put the kids to bed, and then I would have to go. She wouldn't allow me to stay. I would go to a sober living house. It was hard not to self-soothe in those ways. So I would go for a month, and then I would relapse, and then I'd go for a month, and I'd relapse with masturbation.
Okay. And
so I've got about
if we take
9 months.
If we take the masturbation out, which I would never do, it's in your inner circle, so of course it needs to be there. That's when the next sobriety date starts. But if we weren't dealing with masturbation and we were looking at all the other deal-breaking behaviors, how much clean time do you have?
2 years. I mean, I checked into Pine Grove in end of July of 2020.
Okay.
So,
and how many meetings do you go to a week?
2 meetings a week. And I meet with a CSAD. I'm SAA. Yeah.
Okay.
And I meet with a CSAD on a weekly basis.
Yay. Okay. And do you pray, meditate, or journal?
I do. I pray, and I've been going through the Bible in a Year podcast, and I've got 280-something consecutive days with that, and really enjoyed that, as well as taking the family to church. We have not been, we have missed some, but we're committed to making sure that worship is in our take
circle.
two. Yeah. Our green circle behavior.
So you're doing all the right things. That's why I wanted to talk a little bit about you, because if she were sitting here with us, what might she be complaining and bitching about? And I don't need you to answer that, but you're doing a real good job on your recovery. You got to figure out how to protect that brain and stop the masturbating. You'll be even a better husband and a better father if you learn how to let that go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
So now what? Oh, go ahead.
No, I agree. I was just agreeing with you, that's all.
Okay. And so you have resentment about her past infidelities that you discovered. I mean, you did some investigation, or she told you?
Mm-hmm. No, I discovered. I did some investigation. I had a really tough time with boundaries initially out of treatment because I felt like there was gaslighting, because I felt like there was something else underneath there, that things weren't just right. And come to find out, my suspicions were my gut was right, was accurate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then what I want to ask you is, how are you dealing with these resentments? Like, what are you doing to manage them? Because she's not where you're at.
Yeah, I have 2 really good friends in recovery. I have peers. I work a phone program. I reach out. I call and just send to somebody else and get my acknowledge the pain, acknowledge the hurt, have my pity party, limit it, and then try to go back inside and show up for my family.
Okay. And so when I said that she's not where you're at, and probably she's not there because she's not going to meetings that help her to hold herself accountable. She's hanging on by a thread. She's not holding herself accountable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees, she's beginning to see, I do have hope because I feel like she is beginning to see family patterns. I do, she has shared with me that she recognizes that she did this behavior and it cheapened herself over past relationships, that when there was infidelity, had serial infidelity occur. And, I knew this before we went into the relationship, and I feel so guilty, so shameful about the fact that I did something that I swore to her I would never do, and I knew how much, the pain and the hurt that she'd had previously. And, and I was when we met, I was meeting with a psychologist during med school, and I was doing everything that I needed to do, and I was the healthiest I'd ever been. I was had some learning disabilities, and I was esteeming myself by really doing great in med school in a way that I had never done before. And I was working on me. I went to over like 40 individual sessions and over 40 interpersonal relationship group sessions while I was, so like 80 sessions while I was in med school. And when I met my wife and when we developed our relationship, and, then residency happened, and I didn't continue to do the self-care. And I think we had 2 kids in 14 months, and things started to kind of, the focus of the relationship from her perspective wasn't me, it was kids, and it was, other life things. We were away from friends or family. We didn't have, my residency was far away from any of our families, and that was the deterioration. And then when we finally moved back home, we stayed with my parents for a little while we were getting settled, and I think that being in the family of origin stuff and trying to go out and cut it as a new attending and build into practice, all of those stressors contributed to me acting out in this way that, having serial affairs and just hurting her so deeply, I'm very, very sorry for what I've done, and I'm really trying to make it right. And it's really hard
well, and I know.
to hold that
I know.
place.
I see it. For our listening audience, is a man who's really somber, and it seems like you have a lot of empathy for her and knowing the pain you caused her. But she doesn't have the same for you, and she doesn't have the motivation to work on the relationship with some professional help. I mean, your relationship is going to take professional help.
Yeah, I know that. I know that.
Okay. And so
we've been able to get in since I sent the email there and pressed and said that we need to meet with. I've been wanting to meet with a couples therapist since I got out of treatment, and she's been reluctant to do that. Finally, over the last month, in September, we met with one for the first time. She is not a CSAT. She's a family couples therapist. I had looked into like a Hope and Freedom therapy weekend or something like that, but we don't, with all of the divorce and with all the compulsive spending and stuff, we have financial stressors as well that don't allow that. So, I'm hoping just getting within the therapist's office will help, because I know that I can't, after the hurt and the triggers and everything that I've done and her PTSD reactions to me, I can't hold her accountable for the things that I need to be able to be, and I need that accountability in order to feel like I'm self-respecting and esteeming myself and holding boundaries. Yeah.
And so, in both books, Help Her Heal and Help Them Heal, they ask the addict to identify what he or she is willing to do to make the other person feel safe. And so let's call your wife Susan. Has Susan changed some behaviors to help you feel safe?
Yeah, she calls me every day when she leaves work. She'll call me when she leaves work. She will do that. And she has started to, financial security, she has started to get on board with Dave Ramsey and with re-looking at how her relationship is with money and is affirming, saying, I guess in motivational interviewing, she has change talk. That gives me hope. She's using change talk that gives me some hope with that. And a part of me does feel like, I set up the environment. I put in the components that led to my wife cheating on me. So if I take extreme ownership, if I'm putting the attention where the attention belongs in my wife and my family, then I'm not worried moving forward, that her behaviors would happen again, if that makes sense.
100%. And so, if I understand you correctly, since you're doing everything you need to do, you are beginning to trust that she's not going to make the same mistakes over and over again in relationships. But her spending is like your pornography. You know, that's what she uses to escape and to self-soothe. And that's going to be harder to break probably than committing to not seeing anybody else. And so I don't want to throw your therapist that you're going to be working with under the bus, but you need a specialist. You're going to be wasting time and money to have somebody who's not capable of understanding your addiction, her infidelity, her financial resentments, and self-soothing. And you're saying you just so Milton Magnus's intensive, was that $10,000, $12,000?
Yeah,
that's the Hope.
It was. Hope and Freedom. It was out of my range right now.
Right. And so you need something a little more.
I have issues with her CSAT because of different things that have occurred. She, when I was in treatment, and my wife works within the OR, so she's not able to make phone calls that easily. She does have a stressful job, but she had a long ongoing text communication string and back and forth with her CSAT, and I just felt really frustrated and really hurt by the something so delicate, something so intricate, something so complicated being therapized over text message, being diagnosed by her therapist as this narcissistic and all these other things about things that I just, man, that really is kind of rough after this text message that you're telling her these things, and not to mention the lack of confidentiality that's in it, knowing that those things were there, wanting to I had an issue with violating her boundaries because I wanted to be the best husband I could be. I wanted to know what it was I needed to do. Anyway, it was, and the idea that her therapist was pro staggered disclosure and that I should answer any questions that she had. That's not CSAT. That's not anything I've read in any of the books. And I took a deep dive into everything from, Stephanie Carnes to you to your sexually addicted spouse to all of these different things. I read them cover to cover and just wanted to help and wanted learning. And everybody says that this is one of my biggest fears is everybody says that true healing doesn't start until after therapeutic disclosure. Well, fudge, we're a long ways out and we still haven't done that. And I don't know if we're really close to doing that to begin with, all the therapeutic formal disclosure, and you need to be prepared by two professionals on that and follow a protocol. And, yeah, you're right. That takes about 6 weeks for both of you to do your work and then to come together for maybe a 3-hour intervention and then follow it with that emotional impact letter. Yeah. I don't know which one of you would be writing, probably her, since she was the first identified partner. But here's the bad news. What we know is that when this has happened and it gets this messy and this murky, then you really need two disclosures. One for her so that she can find out everything about you and feel safe, and then one for you so that you can find out what you don't know. And that way you can rebuild the relationship. Right.
And that would be at least a 6-month, 9-month process.
Yeah.
I want to give you hope because the truth is, and I'm sure your CSAT has told you this, when you can't get somebody to budge to the degree that you want them to, and you said she is willing to go to this couples therapist. And you've seen her once or not yet?
We've seen her twice now. And I left early the second time so that she could have. I had to go pick up the kids, and I left her so that she had extra time with this lady. That's one of her things is she's very skeptical of what is talking going to do for me, and very skeptical, very hesitant about therapy. She's a self-fixer. She can self-fix it, but we're in the position that we're in because we were both trying to self-fix stuff, so it doesn't work very well. I have concerns about achievement addiction or compulsive exercise, compulsive spending, all of these other avenues, and I do not want to take my wife's inventory, but I do have concerns about problematic, unhealthy coping that I see, and I don't know, again, we don't have the language the common language of recovery to speak, and I'm sad about that. It makes me sad. It makes me frustrated at times that we don't have that.
Well, and it was interesting that you said that you went to an Al-Anon meeting so that you would have some common language together, that you got her to an Al-Anon. Does somebody have a drinking problem?
I'm sorry?
Does somebody have a drinking problem? Because you said Al-Anon.
No, Al-Anon just, I was able to go to a conference for International Doctors of Alcoholics Anonymous, IDAA. So this is other physicians who've had issues with boards and things like that, and they have Al-Anon, they have something for the partner, and they actually have Jerry Moe, and they have things for the kids too. They have Alateens and stuff for the kids. So I was very grateful this year that we were able to go as a family. It was a blessing. It was a total blessing. But, I had hopes too that maybe she could feel supported and recognize that listening to other stories that may not be exactly like hers but could find the commonality and pull that thread out and recognize that, understand some aspects of addiction, understand some aspects about, she didn't make it through any of the books. She made it halfway through My Sexually Addicted Spouse and then said, shit on this, I can't read this crap. That was some of the frustration in reading Help Them Heal, is that you talk about the spouse diving into, and man, I felt really hurt by that. I felt really, I had the opposite. I had, hopping out, having another sexual relationship, while I'm, 30 days in treatment, filing for divorce while I'm in treatment, and all of these other things, and not even reading a half of a book about a disease, and I'm trying to hold the paradox that Carnes talks about, is where I was completely powerless and I'm completely accountable, and then just not feeling that on the other side, not feeling understood for that, not feeling like the disease component is really given any credibility, and that it was just a lack of moral fiber or fortitude, or it just hurt. That part hurts.
Okay, so that's a good segue for me, because two things. Either you just worked out and you've really kind of hurt your pecs because you keep grabbing your pec right up below your heart. And so did that...
No, I have feelings there, Carol. I'm having feelings, and they're all in my chest and my stomach, and yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because the second hypothesis I had was, okay, it was medical. He's having heart problems. He may not even know it. He needs to have it checked out. Throughout this entire interview, you've been holding your heart and your pecs and going back to that. That being said, I want to do an exercise with you. Are you ready?
Okay.
When you can't control else, and it sounds like you're getting movement. You're moving slowly. It's just not to the degree that you want. The first thing you do is you say, where do you feel the emotion? And you just said, my heart, my chest, And what else? Or where else?
Sometimes tightness in the stomach, just a pit,
Okay. So it's really connected from the heart down to the upper, is that the duodenum?
Upper abdomen, yeah.
Abdomen.
Something like that.
Okay. So I want you to do me a favor.
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes and just, if you will, feel that feeling and give it a color. That wrestling feeling
Blue.
between all three areas. Blue?
Blue.
Okay. Now go ahead and open your eyes. So now, if you link that emotionality, which is stuck there, because I feel like you're somewhat stuck. Even though you notice the progress, it's like you're ready to rock and roll. You're ready to restore the relationship. You're ready to be a healthy family.
Yes, ma'am.
So link that emotionality to one of the 5 feelings, and you know this from my book: anger, sadness, loneliness, fear, or happiness. Which one comes closest?
Fear and sadness are neck and neck. They're it's hard to tell which one,
I'm going to ask you to pick one. I want a primary, even if it's hard.
Sadness.
Okay. Sadness. I don't blame you. You've been through a lot. And you are experiencing so many losses right now. And a man who's worked as hard as you have worked, you want the wins. You don't want to be stuck in the losses. That's what you've had your whole life. So now, you said that emotionality is in the chest down to the abdomen, and it's linked up to sadness, and it's blue. Here's your second exercise. I want you to imagine that color, imagine the feeling, imagine the sadness, and I want you to take 5 deep breaths through that sadness. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay, he's doing it, everybody. His chest is inflating and then deflating. And then you can open your eyes when you're done with the 5th one. Good. Okay, now, when you link that sadness up to your life experience, what is one of the worst mind thoughts you have about your life and where you're at today?
Hurt and disappointment that I've caused. Not just
okay, so if I heard you correctly, you said you're hurt and disappointed.
Disappointment that I've caused others.
Okay. And so, when you breathed through it, did you feel better, the same, or worse?
No, I felt better. I felt the lightening of the feeling. It got lighter and clearer, and the color faded.
Good. Because that's what's supposed to happen. And then it's supposed to ding, 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 remind you that hurt and disappointment that you caused has to be wrapped around constructive compassion. So now I want you to think about 2 ways that you can have compassion for you to keep you strong as you work through these marital problems. So, one is something good you can do for you that's compassionate. What would one of those things be?
Self-care in the gym and better management of my weight.
Okay, so I'm going to just stay with the gym right now. So self-care by going to the gym and doing something that you know is good for the body.
Sure.
Okay, that's the external locus of control. That's something you can change externally. Now, I'm going to ask you to practice something that has to do with your internal thoughts. And it's a reality affirmation. It starts out with the reality. Even though, and I'll just throw one out, but you can't steal it.
Okay.
Even though my marriage is not where I want it to be, and my wife is lagging behind, what I know to be true is we're making some progress, and she is still with me. Okay? That's one reality affirmation. It starts out with even though, and then what I know to be true. Now I want you to come up with one.
Even though I feel financial fear because of my current situation, my income and her income together, along with budgeting and discipline, can find a path through to financial freedom. We both have very good jobs. And go ahead.
You better believe it. And I'm telling you, most millionaires have been bankrupt 1, 2, or 3 times. So in some ways, that can build it stronger.
Amen.
So that affirmation is, even though you're in some financial distress, what you know to be true is between both of your incomes and discipline, you can get where you need to be, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you homework. Did you know you were gonna come to therapy with me today?
A good therapist will give me some homework. I hear you. Let's do it.
Okay. So now I want you to do a reality affirmation about your marriage, and I want you to email it to me so that I can read it to my listeners next week on the air, because we actually have to end. And so I want you to do that, because the relationship is the hardest part. So, start out with even though, and then talk about the relationship, and then I want you to come up with an affirmation about what is working for you or what is working for the both of you. Okay? And I'm going to ask you, why didn't you come to our workshop last week? It was only, I'm not allowed to talk about my prices, but it was cheap. You two should have come.
I wish I would have known about it. I would have done what I could have done. Please keep me informed of any in the future, Carol. I really appreciate your time today and hearing me out. And thank you.
Well,
thank you very much.
Absolutely. And I don't even know that she would have come. But the truth is, we more 6, 7, 8-hour days on the weekends, workshops where you can get started with some of these concepts, and they leave you with hope. And you're working too hard for this not to work out in some way, shape, or form. And it's your job to have integrity no matter how it works out, right?
That's what I'm trying for. That's the goal here.
Okay. So get me that homework assignment, and just for me, will you have your heart checked out?
Thank you, Carol. My heart is good.
I'm medical intuitive, but you were holding it the whole time. Okay.
Yeah, the chest pain is real at times. It is. This addiction has caused a lot of pain, and I'm a very empathetic person to begin with. I feel for other people. I'm in a caring profession because of that, and to know that you hurt your best friend, and you hurt your best friend and pressed on a wound that you knew was there, man, that just sucks. It just really sucks.
I get that. Please give yourself compassion because you're the new and improved David. Okay?
Amen.
I got to go.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you
Okay.
so much for coming on. Anytime you want to do a teletherapy or telecoaching for real reasons. Telecoaching here on the air, come on back. Free of charge.
Thank you, Carol. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so as you can see, he is working hard on helping her heal, but he's got to heal himself, and he's got some questions. And this is going to be a long process, but you know what? I believe it can happen, especially the more you work on yourself to get healthy. It's the end of the show. We'll see you next week for more sex help with Carol the Coach. And it'll be a different time because I'm training those New Zealanders on IRCM, and I'm helping them heal. So make it a good one. And as I say at the end of every show, you can repeat it with me. There'll only be one of you, so at all times fearlessly have the courage to be yourself. We will see you next week for more sex help with Carol the Coach.